Regret has a way of creeping in when you least expect it. One moment you think you know exactly who you are, and the next you find yourself standing in the shadows of your own home, feeling like a ghost haunting the halls of your own life. My name is Clara Henderson, and as I stood there in our cozy living room, a place that once felt like a sanctuary, I could not shake the chill of despair that had settled in my bones. I was 32 years old, still trying to reconcile the sweet memories of my childhood home where family was everything. The echoes of laughter during dinner, the smell of my mom's famous pot roast, and my dad's playful teasing filled my mind, but now those memories felt marred by a deepening sadness. Mom, can you play with me? My daughter's voice rang through the air, sweet yet sharp in its insistence. It was Lily, my little bundle of joy turned unexpected tormentor. Just a few years ago, she would run to me, her arms thrown wide open, and I would embrace her, both of us giggling together. But today felt different. There was a heaviness in my chest that I could not shake. I will in a moment, sweetheart, I replied, forcing a smile even though the corners of my mouth felt heavy like they were weighed down by lead. I watched her as she bounded over to Oliver, the look on her face making my heart lurch. She had such energy, such vitality, and yet it felt as if she held a knife behind her back, just waiting to stab at my son's tender feelings. Come on, Oliver, stop being a baby. Her voice was a sing-song taunt, and I felt anger bubble within me. Why was she like this? This was the same girl who had squealed with joy the first time she had held him in her arms, but now she found pleasure in pushing him down. I could see my son in the back of the room, his eyes wide and glistening, teetering on the edge of tears. They had not even been playing for 10 minutes. He was clenching his toy, the one with the cute blue dinosaur that had been a present from his birthday just last month. And yet Lily stood there, chest rising and falling with laughter as if mocking the very essence of his being. I drew a shaky breath, my heart caught in my throat. Lily, that is enough, I spoke firmly, perhaps too firmly as her laughter silenced. She looked at me, the corners of her mouth still holding remnants of joy, and I hated it. Why must you be so unkind? I asked, my tone softer, hoping to reach the little girl I had raised, but she crossed her arms, anger glimmering in her eyes. He's being annoying, Mom. He spilled juice all over the carpet yesterday. He deserves it. The words hit me like a slap across the face. Was my daughter really defending her actions? I could see Oliver retreating further into himself, and I felt my heart break for him all over again. Lily, everyone makes mistakes. You should be nice to your brother, I whispered, hoping to calm the situation. Nice? Why should I be nice? He is just a stupid baby, she yelled, tossing her head back in defiance, her voice shrill like nails on a chalkboard. I felt anger bubble inside me again, but I also felt lost. So many moments replayed in my head. The time I had caught her teasing a new friend at school, or the way she did not want to share her favorite toy with Oliver. How had my darling girl turned into this little mean machine? Lily, it breaks my heart to hear you speak to him this way, I said, my voice trembling now as tears threatened to spill. You need to understand that hurting others is not okay. Whatever, Mom, you just don't get it, she snapped, rolling her eyes as if I were some ancient relic. I felt a wave of helplessness wash over me, a tidal wave of despair and frustration. I get it more than you know, Lily. My voice was rising, but I tried to steady it. I get it because I used to have a little brother too. I loved him more than anything. Yeah, but he's not me, she shot back, and in that moment I could see it, the wall she had built around her crumbling heart. I wondered if she even realized how much resentment lay within her. And there it was, the tears stung my eyes, blurring my vision. You know what Oliver needs? He needs a sister who cares about him, who loves him. I need you to be that sister, I implored, my heart racing as I spoke. My nurturing instinct kicked in, and I could feel myself pouring my unwavering love for both of my children into every word. You don't understand my life, just leave me alone, she spat, and my heart sank. Lily. I caught myself forcing a deep breath as I dared to look at Oliver. He was sinking down to the floor, the tears rolling silently down his cheeks while his chin quivered. I felt like I was suffocating. I glided over to Oliver and knelt beside him, wanting to hold him in my arms to shelter him from the cruel world he seemed to be confronted with every single day. His small body shook with silent sobs as I wrapped my arms around him. You're not a stupid baby, Oliver. I pressed my lips to the top of his head. You are so brave. I just wanted to play, he muttered, his voice trembling like a leaf in the wind, and every word felt like a dagger to my heart. I know, buddy, I know, we are going to figure this out together, I promise, I reassured him. I could feel a sense of resolve building inside me, gathering its strength like a hurricane ready to unleash itself upon the unsuspecting. Lily watched us, indifference painting her expression, yet her fists were clenched. The lines around her mouth showed signs of anguish or perhaps confusion. Don't take his side, you never take my side, she shouted again, and I could feel heat radiating off her. I turned my gaze to her, and the mixture of frustration and a mother's love ignited something primal within me. You think I want to be in the middle of this? Being a parent is hard, Lily. I don't just pick sides, I want what's best for both of you. Whatever, she mumbled, shoving her way out of the living room, her footsteps loud and defiant. I glanced at Oliver again, and he seemed to draw into himself even more. Hey, buddy, let's do something fun, I said, forcing ignorance to the animosity that had just unfolded. How about we color? He sniffed, wiping his eyes with the back of his small hand. Okay, he squeaked, and I gave him a small smile, hoping to lift his spirit. What do you want to color? Dinosaurs, they are really cool, he suggested, still hesitant but clearly trying to think positively. Dinosaurs it is. I led him toward the dining room table, pulling out a coloring book filled with vivid illustrations of bright green Tyrannosaurus rexes and long-necked brachiosauruses. I lined out the crayons in a rainbow fashion, and as he picked the green crayon first, I sat beside him, my heart still heavy from the earlier confrontation. As I watched him begin to color with fervor, I couldn't help but wonder how we had arrived at this painful point. What had changed? This beautiful house we had created together, this home filled with laughter, now seemed to echo with tension and unspoken fears, especially with the introduction of Lily's harshness that carved a divide between them. A spark of determination ignited within me. No longer could I sit back and let Lily trample on Oliver's fragile feelings. A mother's heart cannot stand idle when her child suffers. Once Oliver was lost in his coloring, I pulled my phone out and texted a few of my closest friends, asking for advice, desperately searching for answers. What do? I typed, the words seeming inadequate. I sent another message. What do you do when you feel like you are losing your child to darkness? Within moments, my phone pinged incessantly with responses, each full of compassion and suggestions. I read through them, simultaneously grateful for my friends' unwavering support and disheartened by my own inability to find a solution. Finally, I stopped scrolling, realization dawning on me. They all mentioned one thing: the importance of teaching empathy. A plan started to take shape in my mind, a plan aimed at turning the tide in our home. Okay, Oliver, I said as he colored away, a hint of determination hidden in my voice. I have an idea. He looked up at me, his face smeared with uncertainty. What is it, Mom? Would you be willing to help me teach Lily a lesson? My heart raced at the thought, but I felt steady within myself. The little boy's eyes widened in surprise. A lesson? Yes. We need to show her how it feels when someone treats you badly. It's time to help her understand that her words can really hurt. Okay? His enthusiasm shone through his uncertainty. Good. I smiled down at him, whispering a promise to myself that I would protect him. I would not let Lily continue down this path of cruelty. The tides would turn, but with understanding, not bitterness. In that moment, I felt hope begin to rise, mingling with the determination that had sparked a revival within me. Soon, the laughter of children would again fill our home, for both my children deserved a life filled with love, kindness, and understanding. And by understanding, we would build the bridge that had begun to fracture, laid by my own nurturing heart. Little did Lily know that she was about to learn the greatest lesson of all. My heart raced as I crouched behind the kitchen counter, hidden from sight yet immersed in a world that was both precarious and thrilling. I could hear Lily's voice rise, sharp and fierce, the anger in her tone reverberating through the air like an electric current. "Leave my things alone, you stupid baby," she shouted, and I could almost feel the sting of her words echoing in the room, soaking into the walls and floor. The moment she stormed down the hall to confront Oliver, I held my breath, tension squeezing my chest like a vice. I had orchestrated this, no, we had orchestrated this, but somehow, as I watched the confrontation unfold, it felt far more personal. Oliver, completely unbothered by Lily's wrath, continued to occupy himself with her favorite toy. His innocent grin was a stark contrast to Lily's fierce demeanor. A tiny figure of rebellion in an oversized world, he was blissfully unaware of the chaos around him. The way his fingers danced over the colorful buttons and textured surfaces filled me with a strange mix of pride and worry. My heart pounded as confusion flickered across Lily's face. I had seen that look before, a flicker of disbelief followed by a torrent of emotions she rarely allowed herself to feel: powerlessness, frustration, and that deep-seated rage bursting forth like a shaking storm cloud. "Why won't you listen to me, Oliver?" she grunted, her fists clenching at her sides. She was the mighty ruler of our household, and I could tell that this defiance was chipping away at her confidence, each snicker of Oliver's breaking down the walls she had built. There was something beautiful about the unraveling of her arrogance, yet the knot in my stomach tightened. I knew this was part of our plan, part of the necessary training to confront her entitlement, but did it have to sting so much to witness her suffering as days faded into weeks? The events began to spiral into something intricate, a dance where Lily seemed to be leading, but Oliver would not take the bait. Each attempt she made to reclaim her position, the jabs, the taunts, the petty power plays, met with the same blissful indifference from Oliver. It was truly mesmerizing watching her wither inside her own skin. The glowing smile she wore when the world bowed to her was slowly fading into shadows, mirroring the frustration visible with each failed attempt. Late one afternoon, I overheard her muttering while sitting at her desk, surrounded by a fortress of art supplies and colorful drawings depicting her dreams and memories with Oliver. She drew pictures of their adventures, sun-soaked afternoons at the park, and their secret hideouts. But propelled by jealousy, she was becoming increasingly frantic. "What is wrong with him?" she hissed, her frustration spilling into the stillness of the house. "Why won't he just pay attention to me?" It was both heartbreaking and exulting. Smirking, I couldn't help but feel a bit of triumph at her growing torment, knowing every moment was teaching her a lesson she needed to learn. The resistance that Oliver was putting up was reshaping their interactions in ways she hadn't anticipated, even I hadn't. I could see the cracks in her facade beginning to deepen, that once impenetrable wall of supremacy weakening under Oliver's unyielding spirit. Yet there was a moment that shocked me to my core. I remember creeping closer, peering into her room, trembling with uncertainty. She was pacing like a caged animal, fists clenched tightly at her sides. "Why won't he just listen to me?" she cried out, her voice a mixture of anger and desperation. I wanted to reach out to her to tell her that perhaps this was exactly what she needed, but would it feel supportive or manipulative? My feet remained rooted to the floor, an unwilling participant in a scene I could have easily intervened in. And then, in a fit of rage, she grabbed her drawing board, yanked it down off the wall, and began erasing every single element that depicted Oliver. Each swath of her eraser was laced with remnants of her frustration, the once vibrant colors dissolving into shades of gray as she tore apart the happiness they had shared. My heart sank at the sight of her erasing their joyful memories, liquid sadness welling up in my chest. I could see the grief etched on her face, twisting into something altogether darker, a desperate need to reclaim control to regain her brother's affection. I was torn. Was she truly understanding the damage that she had inflicted on him, or was this simply an expression of her own chaotic emotions? As the plan continued to evolve in my mind, I rationalized that our actions were teaching her valuable lessons, but what if it was too much? What if I was leading her through a maze she couldn't escape, one that would leave her bruised and broken? Those thoughts were overwhelmed by the uncertainty of whether this emotional strife would truly foster a better relationship. This tense turmoil was like a storm brewing in the distance. Could I bear to witness the fallout? The next day held a pivotal moment, a confrontation I'd been sensing just beneath the surface. As the sun cast soft afternoon light into the living room, I watched from my concealed spot once again, the air vibrating with tension. Once more, the house felt charged with unearthly possibilities as I saw Lily inch toward Oliver, her eyes gleaming with a mixture of resolve and irritation. "Hey, that's mine," she shouted, lunging toward him, hand outstretched to snatch the toy from his grasp. I could feel my throat constrict with anticipation. Would she actually use force? But Oliver, in perfect composure, something I almost envied at that moment, looked up and replied with an unwavering grin. "I think this belongs to me, Lily." His voice was firm yet innocent, boisterous yet blissfully unaware of the storm brewing around him. For a second, everything paused. Lily stopped, her eyes widening, a mix of confusion and disbelief clouding her features. This was the first time she had ever been met with resistance, and oh, how glorious it was to witness. I held my breath, my skin prickling with excitement. "What do you mean it belongs to you?" she spat, her brows furrowing in frustration. "You're just a stupid baby, you don't get to take my things." "Stupid baby," he echoed, tilting his head in that innocent, adorable way of his, oblivious to the weight of her words. "But I want to play just like you." His simplicity was disarming, his defiance unyielding, a perfect counter to her antics. Standing motionless, I could almost see the gears turning in Lily's mind, the flickering expressions of a power struggle playing out across her face. There was a dawning realization blossoming, fragile yet potent, and it felt as if the air was crackling with electricity. Here she was, once unassailable, spoiled, a tyrant ruling over her own castle, standing at the precipice of understanding, teetering on the edge of a new reality. "Why do you think you can just take my stuff?" she finally stammered, a quiver creeping into her voice. "Because I want it too," he said simply, his eyes filled with childlike mischief. In that moment, as I watched them exchange words, something in me shifted. I understood that the core of our strategy was not rooted solely in revenge, but rather in reshaping this tangled relationship. She needed to grasp something profound, that her actions have consequences and that love cannot be demanded or forced. It must be given freely, nurtured with kindness and respect. "I'm not a stupid baby," he continued, a note of defiance sharp in his voice. I felt the air tensing around us, the world narrowing down into their singular conflict, a battle of childish wills in their small universe. As Oliver's words hung in the air, I could sense the shift. There was something akin to vulnerability in Lily, the openness of a closed heart slowly beginning to crack. "Maybe you are just a baby," she huffed, her bravado slipping through her fingers as uncertainty washed over her. "But you can't just take my favorite toy, it's mine." As I observed the chaos unfurling behind the closed doors of our home, my heart swelled. A part of me wanted to break the silence and step in to guide Lily, to tell her to back down and reconsider her actions. But there was wisdom buried inside me that told me to hold back, to let this moment roll through their lives. It was only in this friction that they might find resolution, and I prayed that Lily could finally begin to decipher the weight of her actions. "All things can be shared if you just ask," Oliver declared, beaming up at her, a glint of friendship mingled with that innocent stubbornness. "Ask, what do you know about asking?" she challenged, though I could hear the tremor of doubt in her voice. "Maybe you could get a toy back from me if you just told me you want to play." His nonchalance was a defiance wrapped in sweetness, a polar opposite to the high-strung reality of Lily's wars. The tension stretched taut between them like a rubber band, and in that moment I felt a flicker of hope as I watched Lily simmer, her thoughts plainly visible on her face. Hers was a battle for respect against a background of love she hardly understood. Would this be enough to catalyze a permanent change? Would she grasp the meaning behind it all, or would she simply retreat into the familiar darkness of her previous battles? Unwilling to surrender her pride, I remained hidden within the kitchen, my breath bated, wondering not just what would happen next, but who would emerge on the other side of this tangle they were weaving. Something about the words spoken in that small living room promised transformation, a shift in power, an evolution of siblings that had once been so fractured. All I could do was hope that the outcome would bear fruit, not just for them but also for myself. In this game of strong wills, perhaps we were all learning to play together. After all, I tucked Lily into bed that night, my heart a mix of hope and apprehension. The soft glow of her bedside lamp washed over the room, casting warm shadows across the walls that were adorned with colorful drawings. I took a moment to breathe in the sweet scent of lavender, her favorite, and felt a strange sense of calm envelop me. I was not just a mother in that moment, I was a warrior standing at the gates of transformation, ready to fight for my daughter's heart and help her navigate the tangled emotions that had bound her recently. Lily, I began softly, but I felt my heart thumping loudly, echoing the tension that gripped my chest. I need to talk to you about something important. She turned to me, her innocent blue eyes reflecting curiosity, a flicker of apprehension lurking just beneath the surface. It struck me how delicate she seemed, like a tiny bird poised on the edge of flight. "What is it, Mom?" she asked, her voice soft yet edged with uncertainty. I felt a lump rise in my throat, the weight of my emotions building like a tidal wave. I swallowed hard, pushing forward. "I know you have been having some trouble with Oliver lately," I said, each word carefully chosen, "and I want to understand what is going on in your heart." Her brow furrowed, revealing a hint of guilt that darted across her features. It broke my heart to see her like this. "I don't know," she murmured softly, distant. "I just get so mad at him." With gentle intention, I reached out, brushing her hair from her face, feeling the silky strands slide through my fingers. My heart ached for my precious girl, who was being overtaken by emotions she couldn't fully comprehend. "Sometimes we can feel lost, Lily," I said, my voice steady but filled with compassion, "and it can lead us to act in ways we do not understand. But hurting others does not bring happiness, it only causes pain." A flash of defiance ignited in her gaze. "But he annoys me and I wanted him to leave me alone." She protested, her voice rising in pitch defensively like a shield seeking to protect her fragile pride. I inhaled slowly, allowing her frustration to settle around us like a thick fog. "But Lily," I countered gently, "think about how Oliver must feel. What if someone were to treat you that way? What would you think?" For a moment, silence filled the room as I watched the wheels turn in her mind. Emotions flickered in her eyes like a kaleidoscope, confusion, anger, a spark of realization. Like a dam about to burst, I anticipated the flood of understanding. As if the walls she had built were beginning to crack, I dared to reach through the metaphorical gaps, willing her to break free of the chains that held her heart captive. "It hurt him," she whispered after a moment that felt eternal. "I saw him cry." In that moment, a rush of warmth washed over me, igniting hope deep within my soul. This was the recognition I had been waiting for, the redemption of her heart unfolding right before my very eyes. "It did hurt him, sweetheart," I confirmed softly, my heart swelling with love. "And that is why we must find a way to heal these wounds together." Her expressive eyes glossed over with tears, and to my surprise, they spilled over, tracing silent streams down her cheeks. "I am sorry, Mommy," she whispered, her voice barely audible above the soft rustle of the night. Instinctively, I wrapped my arms around her, pulling her tight against me, feeling the warmth of her small body meld into mine. It felt like I was embracing the very essence of forgiveness and love, and all I could think was how grateful I was for renewal, for clarity for this moment. As I held her in the cocoon of my arms, a promise formed on my lips. "We are going to make things right with Oliver," I whispered, breathing in her sweet baby smell mixed with the hints of her bedtime lotion. Together as a family, the days that followed were a blur of inspiration and growth. Each morning began with a new determination, an unyielding commitment to change the tides of emotion that had surged between my children. I watched with increasing pride as Lily began to embrace the idea of healing, the way the sun gently breaks through the clouds after a storm. The light returned to her eyes, and the heavy load she had carried began to lighten. "Can we make a card for Oliver?" she asked one afternoon, her small hands scribbling furiously on a piece of paper. The lines were crooked, but each letter bore her genuine intent. "I want to tell him I'm sorry." "Yes, sweetheart," I replied, watching her fervor with admiration. "That's a wonderful idea. Let's put our love into it." She beamed up at me, and the contrast of joy against her earlier frustration felt like night and day. We wrote the words together, choosing each one carefully, creating a small world on that piece of paper. "I'm sorry for being mean. I love you, Oliver." Once the card was finished, Lily insisted on delivering it herself. I could almost feel the flutter of butterflies in her stomach as she approached her brother. Standing at the end of the hallway, she took a deep breath, her small form radiating a mix of hope and trepidation. I watched as she crouched down to meet his gaze, her expression earnest, the facade of bravado melting into something more genuine. "Hey, Oliver," she said softly, her voice almost shaky. "I have something for you." The boy, oblivious to the inner turmoil that had brewed beneath the surface, blinked his big brown eyes, intrigued. "What is it?" he asked, an innocent smile touching his lips. He was so small, his sweetness a stark contrast to the storm that had embroiled them just days before. "This," she said, handing over the card with trembling fingers, her courage shining through the vulnerability. "I'm sorry I hurt you, I love you." Oliver took the card, his confusion evident, and slowly opened it. His eyes widened as he read the words, and I could see the flicker of recognition dancing across his face. He looked up at Lily, his expression shifting, perhaps wrestling with his own feelings of hurt and confusion. "You mean it?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Lily nodded, her small, tight-lipped smile breaking through all that had occurred. "Yes, I really do." Suddenly, I caught the shimmer of tears in Oliver's eyes, and it twisted my heart. They stood there, two little souls striving to mend the rift that had opened between them. "I forgive you," he said, his voice steadying with resolve. "I was just annoyed, too." In that moment, the atmosphere shifted, and as I watched them embrace, I felt a wave of catharsis wash over me. The warmth of their small bodies intertwining against the chaos of emotions felt like a promise whispered in the wind. They were rebuilding their bond, brick by brick, love holding each piece together like mortar. Days turned into weeks, and their reconciliation blossomed like the gentle opening of a flower after a long winter. More laughter filled the rooms as they played together, finding joy in simple things, their shared experiences weaving a tapestry of compassion. Their bond began to solidify, and I felt the palpable energy shift in our household, the atmosphere feeling lighter, brighter. I witnessed their connection flourish, and it filled me with a renewed sense of purpose about parenting. Mama, Lily called to me one morning, bursting into the kitchen as I prepared breakfast. Can we make cookies for Oliver? I want to surprise him. Absolutely, sweet girl, I smiled, met with her infectious excitement. The memory of those difficult days faded into the background, overshadowed by the warmth that enveloped us now. As we gathered the ingredients, flour dusting our hands and sugar sweetening the air, I delighted in every moment knowing that change truly came from within. Together, we baked not just cookies but shattered miscommunication, its remnants replaced by love, understanding, and forgiveness. I felt hope lingering in the corners of my heart, and the future shimmered before us like the sun breaking through a cloudy sky. I was grateful, filled with the unshakable belief that we could heal, that Lily could heal, and that Oliver would know love too. Let's decorate, Lily exclaimed, her face aglow with creativity. We spent the next hour transforming plain cookies into little masterpieces, green and red icing swirling as if they represented the love weaving through our family. It wasn't just about the cookies. It was about nurturing connection, about filling the cracks with joy and reminding ourselves that we could become better through love's gentle touch. As I watched them laugh amidst the flour clouds and cookie crumbs, my heart swelled with a mixture of pride and renewed love, intertwined with the joy of watching them grow closer. I had always believed in the power of love, and here it was, blossoming right in front of me. The transformation I had prayed for was unfolding into something beautiful, a tapestry of redemption draped over us, and a promise that would unite us as a family. Together, for all time, witnessing their budding friendship felt like oxygen filling my lungs. The echoes of laughter returned to our home, washing away the painful memories that had clouded our days. The streaks of light dancing through the branches of the old oak tree in our backyard drew me to the window, and as I peered out, I noticed Lily and Oliver deeply engrossed in their playtime. A gentle breeze danced around them, and I could hear the occasional chirping of birds and rustling of leaves in the distance, creating a perfect backdrop for their adventure. The memories of their arguments and silent tensions that had once filled our home faded like the echo of a distant storm, and for the first time in a long time, I felt hope blooming within my chest. From where I stood, I could see them under the generous shade offered by the sagging branches. Lily was on the verge of constructing a fort, her small hands moving with determination, draping an old quilt over a pair of chairs. She giggled as she adjusted the makeshift roof, her face alight with excitement. Oliver, come help me, we need to make it strong or the dragons will get in, she exclaimed, her voice ringing like the bells on a warm summer day. Oliver rushed over, his eyes wide with delight as he clutched a shiny toy sword that had seen better days. He gave a quick twirl, almost tripping over his own feet in the process. I will be the brave knight, his little voice booming with a mixture of pride and enthusiasm. And I will defeat all the dragons, even the really, really scary ones. I could see the joy radiating from him like a golden light, and it felt like every worry I had about them was washed away by their innocent play. As they reaffirmed their roles, with Lily taking on the princess's persona, her delight was tangible. And you must save me, Sir Oliver, the dragon has taken my crown, she declared dramatically, pointing to a butterfly that fluttered precariously close to where they were playing. Fear not, Princess Lily, I will save you, Oliver promised, brandishing his sword with an intensity that was both comical and courageous, his spirit shining brighter than ever before. The way he directed his attention to Lily, soaking in her laughter, brought warmth to my heart, turning memories of chaos into memories of connection and love. Watch out, Lily shouted, her laughter bursting from her lips like confetti. Here comes the dragon, she playfully flapped her arms, pretending to be a frightened maiden, her eyes sparkling with mischief. Roar. Oliver bellowed, his tiny chest puffed out as he fought off this imagined beast with his wooden sword, slashing at air with fervor. Take that, dragon, I will protect the kingdom. With every swing he made, the shadows of the past began to lighten. As I watched them, a rush of emotions enveloped me. I was reminded of my own childhood, those carefree days filled with adventure and the unwavering bond of friendship. I had hoped that these two would bridge their differences, and it seemed, against all odds, like they were on the verge of rekindling their precious connection. The sun continued its descent, the pink hues stretching across the sky, crafting a breathtaking backdrop to their playful battle. I could feel the warmth of those colors wrapping around me, along with a sense of relief and gratitude. My heart swelled as I witnessed their laughter intertwining like a harmonious melody, stirring the peaceful air around us. Is the dragon gone? Lily checked cautiously, poking her head out from behind the blanket fort. I admired her courage. There was something about her spirit that inspired me to believe that even in the depths of darkness, light can always find a way to break through. I looked forward to reflecting on our journey together in this moment of healing. Yes, Oliver celebrated, a victorious smile blooming on his face. I won, now we can have a royal feast. He leaned down conspiratorially. What should we have, cookies or ice cream? Cookies with jelly beans on top, Lily proposed eagerly, her eyes wide with the thrill of their imaginary feast. With smiles and the taste of sweetness in their laughter, I felt a sense of victory, not just for them, but for us as a family. I had given them space, allowing their bond to mend in ways I could not manufacture. They were rediscovering each other and, in turn, rediscovering parts of themselves. Okay, princess, Oliver nodded, still in his nightly role. I shall gather the ingredients from the royal pantry. He leaped away, searching for imaginary treasures in the grass, while Lily squealed with glee, reveling in her fairy tale destiny. Watching them in this moment, I allowed myself a smile. The chaotic storm that had threatened to tear us apart seemed like a distant memory. What had started as a desperate attempt at revenge for the hurt they had caused each other evolved into this beautiful spectacle of friendship, laughter, and rediscovery. I felt a wave of profound understanding wash over me, merging with a newfound compassion. Was I really guilty of projecting harm with my actions before? I pondered. Or had I simply lost sight of what mattered, the emotional connections, the love that thrived in our little sanctuary? I had waited for this moment, and here it was, blooming unexpectedly in my garden of hopes. As twilight embraced the world around us, I called them in for our evening routines. All right, you two heroes, time to get cleaned up for the feast, I chimed, allowing their laughter to glide over the melancholy of the past. They rushed over, their eyes twinkling with pride and mischief. Lily's soft hands grasped mine, and I felt like I could see the warmth of our bonds reflected in her gaze. Did you see how brave Oliver was, Mommy? She exclaimed, her little voice so full of admiration for her brother. Yes, I did, and he couldn't have done it without his brave princess, I replied, and as we moved toward the house, I spotted the remnants of their play scattered across the grass. The quilt draped over chairs, the makeshift crown they had created from dandelions, and the toy sword that lay forgotten, the true relic of their imaginative adventure. That night, while tucking them in, I felt a wave of accomplishment wash over me. Their smiles, it was as if the echoes of their laughter gave me strength, urging me to surrender past grievances and grasp the healing that love and understanding had to offer. I gently pulled the covers up beneath their chins as they snuggled into their pillows, their little hands finding each other under the blanket, solidifying their bond. The soft scent of lavender from their sheets enveloped the room, casting a serene atmosphere shimmering with hope and renewed fellowship. Good night, my brave knight and beautiful princess, I whispered, brushing back a stray lock of hair from Lily's forehead. Their combined giggles filled the room, and I knew that they were not just siblings anymore. The essence of friendship and the power of compassion had seeped into their hearts. As I walked away, closing the door quietly behind me, I couldn't help but reflect on the chaos that had once enveloped our family. Each challenge had carved a path for growth and understanding. My little warriors had fought their battles, and somehow I felt victorious too. In our works of revenge or discipline, I had reached a vital lesson. It is the warmth in nurturing hearts, creating lasting bonds, and encouraging an open dialogue that truly heals. The shadows of darkness faded, replaced by the blossoms of affection, resilience, and connection. Together, we emerged stronger, ready to embrace whatever life threw our way. The profound lesson I had learned was not about seeking revenge, but forging connections filled with love, empathy, and an unwavering commitment to our family.